Hey y'all, welcome back to the Decide It's Your Turn podcast. I don't even know why I say that all the time now, but I am still saying it because I've been doing this for like 4.5 years and I'm trying to get better and better. It's the craziest thing to try to continuously get better and better, but why the hell not, right? Because we have definitely not perfected this due to the fact that, podcasts actually have mine in particular. I don't know if there's anyone else out there. And if you are someone who's listening to this and your podcast listens have gone down, let me know. We've gone down a little bit, hence the reason why I'm trying to do a much better job of putting this up on YouTube and recording in my living room to where the audio is better, the video is better, and hopefully the content is better. So if you listen to this each and every single week, I appreciate you. There are days that I truly do want to quit, but I think that means I'm just a human, right? I'm just like you. I may be a coach, but at the end of the day, I'm just a human being trying to do a human thing, and I have a tendency not to quit very many things and hopefully just like pivot and get better. And hopefully today's podcast is one that you enjoy. I'm going to do something that I think is kind of fun, and hopefully you do as well, and let me know if you do. I have been using a lot of AI tools lately. I've actually sent out an email to all of my clients with a tool, like it's not really a tool per se, but it's a suggestion of buying this kind of guide, this AI guide on how to get better and save more time in your business. And it was actually created by one of my amazing longtime clients. His name is John, and his website is called the AI Hustle Guy. If you want information on this, I am going to send a text message actually today. So by the time this podcast comes out, I'll have already sent it. But if you are not on my text message list at 501-222-3362, text me the word podcast. I'll reply to you. We'll connect. And then if you want that AI guide that I'm talking about, just let me know and I'm happy to send you the link. So my clients had no idea I was doing this. It's the first time I've ever actually done something like this, but I was blown away by what one of my clients has created. It's an AI tool guide to where you basically get, it's this huge downloadable brochure. Gosh, mine was like 30 pages. It was like $200. It was so cheap, but there was things listed in there of ways to save time and use AI throughout the week. And I started, one of the things that he suggested after I bought this guide, these are two different stories. I actually sent this guide, the suggestion guide, to all of my clients. It's the first time I've ever promoted one of my other clients' products or services, but I bought it without telling my client John, who put it together, because I thought it was so friggin' good that I couldn't not share it with my clients. One of the things that I think my clients will always know about me, and if they don't know, is that I want them to succeed so badly. So if I have something that's going to help them, of course I'm going to share it. So I sent this to everyone, and a few of my clients chose to buy it. A few of them didn't. Obviously, I got zero kickback, nothing like that. I didn't want anything because I was just like, this will help so many people. But in the guide that John created for me, he suggested I start using, and perhaps you're listening to this and you're like, duh, no shit, you should have been using this a long time ago. Or perhaps this is something that you're hearing for the first time. But he suggested I use a app called Otter AI. And basically it's just an AI tool that runs in the back of all of my Zoom calls. So I take client calls on Zoom, and it basically records everything that we're saying. And he gave me some specific prompts in order to use the client call to be able to come up with better action items, summarize our session and be able to really kind of give them more from the session. Obviously, all of our client calls are very confidential. Sometimes we talk about things that don't need to be confidential, but a lot of times we do. And so I'm just running this tool in the background, and it kind of summarizes for my clients. So it's an extra added value for my clients, but it's actually been really helpful for me because I've been able to kind of summarize the week of client sessions. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to take this Otter AI tool and get all of the summarizations from the client calls that I've had this week. So on average, I usually take about 4 clients per day. Sometimes it's 6 and sometimes it's 2, but on average, it's about 4 clients a day. And so I asked chat, so I took all the Otter AI client sessions, put those into ChatGPT, and I said, can you please summarize this week's client sessions as best as possible and give me 5 key topics that I can talk about on a podcast? So today you are getting that podcast, and I have them in a Google document on my phone here. And I just kind of wanted to summarize. Obviously, like, you won't know anything about what clients and how we've actually done it, but I think it's really helpful for you to hear what I'm actually talking about with clients. I know I've done these type of podcasts before, but I thought this tool was a really cool way for me to kind of like summarize and really be specific about some of the things that we're talking about. I was doing a podcast the other day with one of my amazing clients. Be sure to check out her podcast. It's called The Wealthy Healthy Life. Her name is Nicole Johnson, and she and I were talking on her podcast about her and I working together and what it's been like. And it's always so nice for me to be able to hear from someone else their experience as a client, because I think sometimes I try to articulate it. And even though I've been doing this for like 8 years and I feel like I'm better at it, I'm definitely not always the best at articulating the client's experience. And she talked so nicely about, why she has really thrived in the coaching container and why she enjoys us working together and what she's gotten out of it. So I thought it was nice for me to listen how she described the client experience. But today I thought it would be really cool to kind of talk about like the five. I asked ChatGPT to give me the 5 main things that we talked about in all of my client sessions this week, and today we're going to share them with you. So I'm going to take a quick swig of water here and let's go. One of the things, by the way, that I am working on is slowing the fuck down as I drink a sip of water, because I literally make myself sick because I don't breathe. Even my husband is like, Christina, no wonder you feel like dog shit at the end of the day. You just talk and talk and talk and you don't even remember to breathe. I have done everything under the fucking sun to learn how to talk and breathe. But I even heard on another podcast the other day that there's so much power in taking a breath and slowing down. So I'm going to try to take a breath and slow down and not sound like my crazy ass self. But you will be able to tell when I get passionate, because I'll go back to my normal. So, all right, what are the 5 main things that we've talked about this week on client sessions, and how are they helpful for you? So the first thing, which is funny because I'm talking about AI tools, but I have been discussing with clients, so this is what AI is telling me. You have been discussing how AI tools like ChatGPT, Otter AI can streamline the business process. You've even talking with your husband about using ChatGPT to create role descriptions and onboarding materials. You've also been using AI to record your client sessions and capture key points, which you mentioned to, and then I mentioned this to like 4 or 5 of my clients, and it lists out the clients that I've been talking about. But I will say it's one of those things right now that, on all of my client sessions, whether I'm talking to a person more about, personal stuff or strategic stuff in their career or their business, AI has been coming up a ton. And I think it's so interesting. I remember one client session this week where I was talking about how, yes, if you are not using AI in some regard, you will 100% be left behind. There's just no doubt about it. You can't not use it. And I also think too, if you're someone who's listening to this and you're not using AI, don't feel bad. 80% of people don't use it and don't even know how, don't even really know what it is, but do get on board. You're not too late. It will come into your life in some regard, and the more that you can start using it, the better. And I do have a belief, and I think I said this to all of my clients, I'm like, yep, it eventually will kill us. But in the meantime, it does make your life a lot easier. And I also think too, for those of you who are perhaps scared, like even in this coaching industry, the things that we used to talk about in the coaching industry were more strategic for sure, like we're diving into more strategy. Nowadays, I think with the use of AI, strategy has become a lot less. And there's certain people in the coaching industry that say, gosh, maybe our jobs are going to go away. I have a completely different view in the fact that I think now more than ever, empathy, human connection, accountability is 100% mattering more than any time before. I think people are extremely overwhelmed. I think people are extremely stressed out. I think people are taking on much too much. I think people are at their max capacity with all that we have to do in this world. Firmly believe that having someone to support you, to be able to help you give clarity on what it is that you need to be doing, what is it you don't need to be doing, and how to take care of yourself is probably one of the most valuable tools outside of AI. So for those of you perhaps who are in the industry of like service, I believe now more than ever, if you really can articulate to a client why having you beside them or the human connection is so, so powerful. I actually feel like people don't even realize how much we're losing the power of human connection. And I think it is one of the greatest skills that you can actually possess. And I will die on a hill for that. So that is my 2 cents on why I still believe so wholeheartedly in the power of the human connection and things that I can do that AI cannot do. Now, there's a billion things that AI is better than I am, but I can assure you, me knowing my clients inside and out, knowing their emotions, knowing who they are, being able to hold them accountable, being able to give them clarity, being able to call them out when they're stuck, being able to help them move forward, even if it's with the use of AI in some regard, I think is unbelievably helpful. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'll be doing just fine for a very long time, if not better than before. And I think a lot of people are super scared right now. Like, it's so weird. This is something I don't even, oh yeah, this is kind of one of the things that came up that AI has captured that I've talked about this week. But so many people are very worried about, and I'm not saying that there's nothing to worry about. Like, I am a human being. I have a father who lives with us currently who watches Fox News all day long. So I do know what's going on in the world. However, I don't look at it all that much. And I definitely don't, look at it on social media and watch the news and all that kind of stuff. I understand that the landscape of the world is difficult right now. I understand it's scary. I understand that people are, politically, religiously, and financially worried. But I also truly do believe that there is so much money in this world, and I will die on a hill for this. Me worrying and trying to fix something that I cannot fix does nothing good. And for those who cannot understand why someone like myself or anyone in that particular matter doesn't stand up or doesn't talk about or doesn't make their stance about something, I truly believe from the bottom of my soul, I would not be doing this every single fucking day, because I definitely don't have to, if I didn't believe so wholeheartedly that this today, helping my clients live a less overwhelmed, stressed out, more confident, more clear, beautiful life, this is my job. I know this is my job. And if I do this job, I know I'm bettering the world, and I am doing myself and others a much better service by doing this than by standing up for something else that I really don't know enough about. And my opinion is fucking my opinion, and it's probably not going to change anything. So I am going to die on this horse, and I am going to stand up for this thing, and that is what I care about. And I have basically blinders on about everything else. Of course I have opinions. Of course there's certain things that I think or I believe or whatever, but I know this, what I do on a daily basis, and how I talk about mindset, and how I serve my clients, and how I help people live a more aligned, less stressed, more confident, more money life. This is the only thing that I'm doing. And so I hope one of you listening who have felt this burden to always stand up and talk about stuff because people want you to talk about stuff, you don't have to solve all the world's problems. Solve the one problem that you are very good at. Whatever that may be, whether it be being a mom or being an accountant or being a doctor or being a horse trainer or whatever the hell you are in this world, please do that thing, and you will be doing yourself and all of us a much better service than trying to fix shit that you actually can't fix. So that's my 2 cents on that. And I think it's very important to say, because I think right now we're just at an elevated point, and I just love being the person who helps get my clients from 110 back to a neutral space so they can do the thing that they want to do on this planet. And so that is my one piece of advice, my one thought. Doesn't mean you don't have an opinion, doesn't mean you can't look at it, but please just do the thing that you actually need to do in this world. And I think that that's one of the greatest things that you can ever do. I really truly do. I know that I can change people's lives doing what I do. I know I can't change the political climate or the religious climate or the world climate or, all of that type of shit. I can't change that, but I know what I can change. So hopefully that little 2 cents is helpful for you and giving you the permission to do that. Okay, what is the next thing that my clients and I were talking about besides the AI and the, how to use those in your business and your life? The second thing that it's funny. It's the second thing, and I never really even thought about it this week, but I'm looking at the names that Chad is using. And with 4 clients, I talked about, and it says you've had several conversations that have touched on strategies, including wealth building and financial planning. You've talked about financial mindsets, cash flow, importance of that, building funds, investment, trust management, life insurance as an asset. You've talked all about financials this week. And that's true. A lot of my clients, we're talking about financial planning, wealth building. I am not an accountant. I've never once pretended I am. I don't know everything there is to know about everything, hence why we go to ChatGPT or why we invest in those who are very proficient in it. I actually have a couple of clients who are in the financial sector, and I definitely point to them. I always try to connect client with client when I really think that 2 clients could benefit each other. But yeah, we've talked a lot about wealth and finance this week, and financial planning and taxes and just how to grow wealth. We talked about money mindset. I mean, no matter how much money you have, money mindset always comes up. No matter how much money you have, whether you have debt or whether you are talking about building your net worth, there's always something that comes up each and every single week with my clients when it comes to financial planning, when it comes to wealth building, when it comes to those type of principles. I try my best to educate myself on, numerous things. My husband and I are heavily invested in real estate, in particular multifamily real estate. We talk about our net worth. We invest with certain companies. We have, we've started investing. We took money out of one wealth company and put it into another wealth company. We're now putting some of our money in a thing called gosh, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's another thing that you had to qualify to be able to put your money into. And so we've started doing that. And it's interesting, a lot of people think when you're putting your money into certain wealth building containers, let's call it that, you'd think that people, invest in these big things. We're definitely diversified in between, the stock market and our real estate portfolio and a couple of other things. But, it's really the traditional stuff that builds wealth for a really long time. I have talked about on this podcast and on my social media how a goal of mine it started actually last year with one of my amazing clients who was talking to me about his Robinhood account and how he really did financially well last year on a few different stocks. And it really propelled me to say, you know what, I'm just going to take money out of my business account and put it into a Robinhood account. And so I just put in, it may sound a lot, may sound little, but I take $500 a month and I just put it into stocks that I actually think are doing quite well. And, I think that's a really good idea for a lot of people. If you don't know anything about the market, if you don't know anything about investing, but you have a little bit extra cash, maybe it's $100, maybe it's $10,000, whatever it is for you. I think it's a smart idea to start paying attention to these things. I think it's smart to pay attention to things that you care about, things that you are passionate about. A lot of people invest in Bitcoin. God, I wish I would have listened to my little brother when he lived with us like 15 years ago. That would have been worth a lot. One Bitcoin is now worth what, 100 grand? It would have been a lot. But I think I started paying attention to this more when I started to really understand the money mindset. And I really promise you, me working on my money mindset has been a very big correlation to building net worth and to be able to do things that, I've always dreamed about doing. And so, this is one of those small things that I was talking to a client with. I was like, you know what, set up a Robinhood account, pay attention to things that you like. What are things that you want to do? And so, I've put money in everything from AI because I think that that's obviously where the world's going, to very traditional things, Visa, MasterCard, Boeing, airline stocks, Ford, just normal things that like the way that I've explained it before on this podcast or perhaps on my social media is, I just pay attention to things that I think that are going to be around forever and that no matter what, the government will always bail out. Hence the car companies, the airline companies, I don't think those things are ever going away. I think, credit card use is an all-time high. Why not invest in those things? I just think that there's things that I I pay attention to, things that I'm curious about. I will always say one of the biggest things that Nathan and I did was I saw someone wearing like a really cute jacket about 3 or 4 years ago from American Eagle, and like the stock was like, I don't know, it was like $4 or $5. That stock now is like $40. How crazy is that? Like just one little tiny thought, right? Or, I've talked about it, I think on my social media, how I really started paying attention to like the soda industry when that Poppy went public and sold for like $1 billion. There's just little things like that. I think whatever you're curious about, whatever you're interested in, pay attention to that. And then also too, I learned a lot from one of my clients this week. She's buying whole life insurance, and, being able to, when you make a lot of money, whether people like this or people don't like this, when you make a lot of money, the rich get rich by finding ways to, quote unquote, hide their money or not pay taxes in the way that they need to pay taxes. And, even one of my former clients just asked me about a 1031 tax exchange. If you don't know anything about what that is, look it up on ChatGPT. Guess what? I'm just very blessed that, my husband has been doing this 1031 tax exchange for, over 10 years since we sold since we sold one of our first projects. And I've learned a lot about it. And it's a way in which to not pay taxes. And that whether you like that or whether you don't like that, at the end of the day, it's going to happen. And the rich get rich by figuring out how to play the game. And it's all a game, folks. Whether you like it or whether you don't like it, it's a game. These are the rules. You can either play by them or you don't, and you'll suffer. And so talking with one of my former clients, she's selling a bunch of property in California. She wants to buy some units that are paying, a pretty good, return on investment. And she needs to do it within a certain amount of days. I think it's about 120 days, depending on, when the closing is. But when you sell one commercial asset and you can put it into another, income producing asset, you do not have to pay taxes on that money under a certain amount of time. Now, I make this sound very simple. It's not. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of research. But when you're about to sell, $500,000 to $10 million worth of property, you really don't want to pay taxes on that. So you figure out how not to do it. And it's just all a game. So a client and I were talking about that this week. Happy to, obviously answer any questions. I am not an expert in any of this, but these are the things that I help my clients. We process out together. We find the best direction. Even if I don't know the answer, us processing it out together is exactly why my clients hire me, because in that one conversation, my God, this client could have paid for me for the next 10 years with the amount of money that she was going to save by, thinking about that 1031 tax exchange. So, all right. So the next thing that we are talking about this week with clients was career development and decision making. I helped a client navigate her career transition challenges. We suggested that she used ChatGPT, again, going back to AI, used ChatGPT to explore different industries that align with her interests and her values and her expertise. Something I learned a long time ago from a gentleman who was on my podcast was this really cool idea of, your life and your passion and what you're good at and your strengths and the skills that you have are like ingredients. What can you do with all of these ingredients to create a career, to create a job for yourself, to create whatever it is that you're creating? And with ChatGPT's help, she put in all of these things and really started to give it prompts. And if you don't know how to talk to chat, that's one of the things that my client John does. And feel free to send me a text and I can point you in the direction of his AI tools to be able to do that. The way that I use chat is I just talk to it like a human being, and I just talk to it as if it's the most smart person on planet Earth. But there's now a ton of ways to get AI prompts and all the things. But I gave her a few prompts on how she might be able to use chat in order to navigate this career change that she's about to make. I also, with another client, we really processed out a lot of decision making. We discussed the importance of saying no to certain projects that don't align. For this client in particular, she has a very, very strong faith. And we went back to just going, okay, you have to trust this God nudge. And we asked, and one of the things that I say all the time is, yes, I do 100% for my clients who are faith-based. I say, have you gone to God first? And then, that's not a cop-out in my coaching at all. I think it's one of the biggest strengths that I have is the fact that I will tell my clients to ask for a sign. And once they get that sign, my job is to hold them accountable to actually doing the thing. Because I know for a fact, if you have a person who has gotten that sign from God, that God nudge, that wink, and then they get scared, they get overwhelmed, they don't think it's going to work, they start worrying about the future. My job is to hold them in that and remind them of what they know they need to do. And that is a skill, and that is something that is learned. And I promise you, if you can learn how to do that, your life will be 1,000 times better. And sometimes that is my job. And you may say, like, why would a person pay you for that? To me, that is exponentially one of the greatest investments that you could ever make, because it will always end up working out for you. It just will, period, hard stop. And then, we really figured out how she could start monetizing certain parts of her business to be able to alleviate the stress from the other parts of her business. So that was the third thing that I did there in regards to those 3 clients. The next thing, I was talking about marketing and social strategy with a couple of my business clients. I advised one of my clients on website optimization, setting up auto subscribe buttons and text messages, reminders and tips. We came to the conclusion that discounts were not for her. I think that that's one of the things that I really help my clients do too, is like process out who they are in business. I think sometimes there's certain people that are known for discounts, and there's certain people that are like never known for a discount. And we processed out different ways for this client to really kind of get people into her marketing funnel, get people into her business without having to give a discount. And we came up with some pretty good ideas. We used ChatGPT obviously to do so, but really it was just about processing out what is the end goal, the end in mind. And this is something that I don't think I talk about enough, and I can definitely do a podcast on this. If you guys want me to, let me know. Send me a text message or hit me up on Instagram or LinkedIn. Talking about the end is something that I don't think a lot of coaches do, and that to me is a bit of a red flag, because it's really hard to get something if you don't know where you're going. And this is the reason why I talk about clarity. You can apply for a clarity call on my website right now. I have definitely changed the way that I do clarity calls. I used to promote myself as a free clarity call. Now there's an application and a $99 fee to get on a clarity call with me. I guarantee that you're going to walk away from that call with one mindset or strategy, but I'm also giving you the opportunity, if we decide to work together, I refund back that $99. The reason why I did this is because I wanted to make sure that the people that were applying to work with me we're on the same page, we're aligned. You've done your homework, and you believe that after one short call, a 45-minute call, that if you don't believe that we're the best fit, absolutely happy to refund that. But if we do move forward, you get that refunded back anyway. So I really just wanted to make sure that the people who are applying for a clarity call, implying to learn about working together, really were on the same page. And I think it was about time that I did that. I definitely branded myself for a very long time that I do free clarity calls. But now I just think that an application process to make sure that you and I are the best fit is the best fit in my business at this time. So that has changed. Obviously, you can find that on my website. And yeah, just send me a text if you want any further information. But I also discussed a social media strategy with another client and recommended, getting in front of that camera. This client has a side passion. She's in corporate. She's done very well in corporate, but she wants to start putting herself out there personally. And so, I definitely push this client to hold her accountable to doing some of the things that scare her to death, just like a lot of people. So that was one of the things that we did there. And then the last thing, this to me is one of the most important things that I do with clients all the time is, most people look at, I've been called everything from a life coach to a business coach to a confidence coach. I really don't care what you call me, but I will always talk about business, and I will always talk about professional. I will always talk about career, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. A lot of people who work with me are not owning their own business or entrepreneurs, but it's always business and personal. And to me, sometimes the personal is sometimes the hardest part. Business is sometimes easy, but the last thing is the work-life balance and the personal growth. So a theme of multiple conversations, this is what ChatGPT said, a theme of multiple conversations, including struggling with decision fatigue, workload management, recovery from surgery, going through courses and podcasts, and being able to kind of take what you want and leave with what you don't. I think a lot of times people get into, and I've seen this for so many years, is that clients get into the habit of so much consuming and not enough action taking. One of the things that I very strongly encourage clients to do, if not every single one of them, is gather all the information, even from ChatGPT. A perfect example is this guide that my client, John, has provided for certain people who chose to buy it. It's 38 pages. That's so much information. It's so much great information, but at the end of the day, it's very hard to implement all of that. So one of the things that a client who ended up purchasing that, what we did is we figured out what is the one main thing that she actually needs to do right now to take action on to implement. And even that one thing is just so worth it. I will tell you, any action that you can take usually trumps the information that you can consume. Action over anything else is usually your best bet. So for me, it was just about making sure that this client had action items to move forward with to make sure that she's actually moving forward. And then I discussed another one about balancing with another client about balancing summer activities with work commitments. You know, a lot of women actually end up coming to me because they are strong, you know, high achieving. A lot of them are business owners. A lot of them are high up in business, and a lot of them struggle with the mom guilt, struggle with the work-life balance. And I am not a person who's going to tell you I'm immediately going to fix this, because I don't believe that there is a balance. I don't believe that that exists, but I think that there's seasons. And I think if you have the end in mind, just like I was talking about, I truly do believe we can come up with a better life plan. And one of my amazing clients, she knows who she is if she listens to this podcast. She's got 4 amazing little ones at home, very, very successful in her business. And one of the reasons why she came to me over 2 years ago is because she really wanted to make sure that she got summers with her kids. She wanted to actually be present with her kids when she got home. And it has taken us, you know, it took us about a full year for her to get into a cadence. And now this second year, we're just trying to figure out how to, you know, continue to grow her life while continuing to have, you know, her being able to be present with her kids, to be able to know that there's things that she can look forward to and that she can be fully present with her kids and still remain unbelievably successful. And funny enough, you know, she's busier now and making more money now than she's ever made in the last however many years, but we're also doing it in a way that feels so aligned to her. So I'm definitely not going to tell you all these things happen overnight, but these are some of the things that I talk about with my clients. These are a lot of the things that I hold my clients accountable to. These are the things that my clients struggle with on a day-to-day basis. And I am honored that I get to help them gain the clarity, hold them accountable, give them a place to process so they don't have to do it all by themselves. Just this morning, I had a client, and I, you know, if confidentiality wasn't a thing, I would play you the voice note that she sent me. But verbatim, I was like, oh, and I literally said to her, I was like, oh my God, you're like a billboard advertising for what I've said, which actually makes me feel pretty good in the fact that the things that I talk about are obviously the things that my clients are struggling with. But she literally said, she said, I am tired of being the only one for every person and not feeling like I have one person that's for me. And that's when she got on her Voxer with me, and we ended up helping her process out, you know, not only how to talk to her partner, but talk to her employees and to put in some boundaries. And, you know, it's a reprogramming. If you are a person who has always done everything by yourself and you are the person who does everything for everyone, it's not going to be an overnight experience. You're just going to flip the switch and be able to do it. It is a reprogramming, a retraining, but my God, is it one of the greatest gifts when I have clients say, you know what? I'm in a good space, and I am so proud of myself that I've been able to do the work to get me to a place where I'm actually enjoying my career, I'm enjoying my life, I'm enjoying my kids, I am enjoying the things that, you know, I've worked my ass off to get here, and finally I'm enjoying it. You know, I have a husband and wife team who I adore, and it's interesting. I will remember, you know, a lot of calls with a lot of clients, but I just remember there were tears on one of their conversations where it was like, you know, we've worked so hard to get here, and we finally are at a place where we're like, this is what we've worked so hard for. This, enjoying our lives. And it was like one of the greatest, it's always one of the greatest blessings for me to be a small part of that. They have to do the work. Every one of my clients have to do the work, but I am honored that I get to do the work alongside of them and guide them so they can have lives that they are literally in tears for, that they're like, this is what we've worked so hard for, and to actually enjoy it. So Like I said in the middle of this podcast, I truly believe that this is my God-given purpose. I can't fix the rest of the world, but these are some of the things that I have helped been, instrumental in my clients' lives this week. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, if you want more like this to where it's really more about the nitty-gritty of what I do with clients each and every single week, please let me know on my text message or send me an IG message over at bchristina on Instagram. Or if you are interested in what it would look like for you and I to work together, please feel free to send me that message. I can send you the link to book a application clarity call, or you can head to the link in my bio. Newsflash, I have a brand new website that I've been working on behind the scenes. I'm very proud of it. It's probably the best one yet. I've only had 4 in the last 8 years, but it's like a mountain to climb. If any of you have ever redone your branding and your websites and all the things, you know how good it feels to be finally done. So if you want to check out my new website, whether you want to work with me or you don't, or you're a client or a past client or whatever, it is ChristinaLecuyer.com. So if you don't know how to spell that, just go to Instagram, click on bchristina, click the link in my bio, and you can check it out. You guys, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for sharing this, and I will see you next week.